Nobody sat you down and said, by the way, what's happening in this house isn't normal. Nobody warned you. Nobody explained it. You just grew up inside of it. And because it was all you knew, you thought it was just life. You thought every family had the silence that could last for days. You thought everyone walked on eggshells. You thought love always came with conditions. But it didn't. And somewhere deep inside you, you've always known something was off. This video is for you. Not to blame your family, not to rip open wounds, but because you can't heal what you haven't named. And today, we name it. Generational trauma doesn't announce itself. It doesn't show up in your family as a diagnosis, or a label, or an honest conversation at the dinner table. It shows up as patterns. Patterns of how people handle emotion, how conflict gets dealt with or buried, how love gets expressed or withheld. Science now shows us that trauma doesn't just live in memory. It lives in the nervous system. It gets woven into how we respond to the world, and without awareness, we pass it on. So here are 10 signs. Not a checklist to shame your family, but a mirror to help you finally see. In traumatized families, emotions aren't just uncomfortable, they're dangerous. Crying was weakness. Anger was a threat. Sadness was being dramatic. So you learned to perform okay. You became fluent and fine. You smiled at the right times. You disappeared when things got heavy. You swallowed what you felt so many times that eventually you stopped feeling it altogether. That's not strength. That's survival. You learned to read the room before you learned to read. You could feel your parents' mood shift before they even walked in. You adjusted yourself, your volume, your needs, your whole presence to manage what was happening around you. That's called emotional parentification, and it's a form of trauma. Children are not designed to carry adult emotions, but in a traumatized family, that line gets erased, and the most sensitive child usually becomes the one who pays the price. If you grew up feeling like you were the parent, this one's for you. Love in your home came with invisible rules. Be good enough, then you'll get affection. Achieve, then you'll get approval. Disappear your needs, then you'll get peace. The love was real, but it wasn't safe. And when love isn't safe, we spend our whole adult lives searching for it in places that feel familiar, which often means people who make us earn it all over again. There was no middle ground. Either everything erupted, screaming, slamming, words that couldn't be taken back, or nothing was ever addressed. A cold, suffocating silence that lasted for days, where everyone pretended the wound didn't exist. What you never saw was repair. What you never learned was that two people could disagree, feel it fully, and come back to each other. So now, as an adult, conflict feels catastrophic because that's the only version you were taught. Some of you became very, very small, quiet, undemanding, easy, because needing things felt unsafe, because asking for attention felt like a burden, because you learned that disappearing was the safest way to survive. And some of you went the other direction. You got loud. because the only time someone looked at you was when you were in a crisis. Both responses make complete sense. Both are trauma adaptations. Both deserve to be seen. What happened at home stayed at home. There were things you couldn't say out loud, stories nobody told, feelings nobody acknowledged. Maybe it was addiction. Maybe it was violence. Maybe it was just a generational culture of silence, where being strong meant never speaking about pain. But secrets don't disappear. They metabolize. They become anxiety, hypervigilance, shame, the body keeping what the mouth was forbidden to say. Safety is the foundation of childhood development, not luxury, not bonus, foundation. When your home wasn't safe, physically, emotionally, or both, your nervous system adapted. It learned to stay on, always scanning, always braced. And now, even in safe places, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. You can't fully relax. You don't fully trust. Because your body learned that calm doesn't mean safe. It just means the danger hasn't arrived yet. You may have had one parent who was the storm, volatile, unpredictable, demanding, and another who was the wall, passive, absent, choosing peace over protection. The silent parent often seems less harmful, but that silence is its own wound. Because a child doesn't need one parent to survive. They need someone to witness what's happening to them and say, this is not okay. When no one says that, the child concludes they must deserve it. In some traumatized families, the message was never spoken aloud, but it was felt in everything. Your value is what you produce. Good grades, good behavior, awards, accomplishments, the right kind of impressive. So you became extraordinary at performing and secretly terrified of being seen without the costume. You are not your achievements. You never were. But nobody taught you that. So let this be the first time you hear it. You were worthy before you ever accomplished a single thing. This is the one that breaks my heart the most, because it's the conclusion that every child in a traumatized family eventually reaches, quietly, privately, in the spaces between. Something is wrong with me. You internalize the dysfunction. You absorb the chaos. You made yourself the explanation, because a child cannot afford to believe their home is unsafe. So they believe they are the problem instead. You were never the problem. You were a child doing the only thing children can do, adapting, surviving, holding on. If you recognized yourself in even 3 of these signs, I need you to hear this. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not the pattern. You are the one who noticed. And noticing, truly seeing what happened to you, is where everything begins. The cycle doesn't end by accident. It ends when you decide to look at it clearly. That's what you just did. You're going to hear a lot more about how this lives in your body, how it shaped your relationships, and most importantly, what healing actually looks like. Not toxic positivity, not pretending. Real healing. The kind that changes not just your life, but the lives of the children who came after you. That's why this work matters. That's why you matter. I'll see you in the next one.